Gather around, my friends, and I will tell you the tale of how Christmas came to be, the story of a holiday hero, and how he changed history. It all began ages ago before the calendar of today, when days with dates didn't exist and schedules just got in the way. It was a time when festivals lacked any definite designation, and the holidays were at the whims of the lords of celebration. As the lords vied for control over the calendar days, they built up their forces and war was eventually waged. The fighting was intense, and casualties were great. There seemed to be no end in sight for the war over the dates. Years the battles lasted, destruction was widespread, where once the holidays were beloved, they now filled hearts with dread. But just when hope began to fade, of the violence ever ceasing, the leaders grew weary of the fighting and agreed to have a meeting. They gathered inside of a large castle that stood above a cliff, and they all began discussing a way that they could coexist.
Welcome, everybody, and thank you all for attending. Let's go ahead and get started so we can get these wars ending.
I second that motion.
I'm looking forward to peace.
I agree with the bird.
And so the conversation began on this historic occasion, with all the lords working towards assigning days of celebration. Well, not all of the lords. There was one not invited. The black sheep of the group was once again being slighted. Poor old Nick lived alone at the North Pole in a small single-room house that was heated by his coal. The other lords shunned him, saying that he was too boring, and that he was obsessed with making his list when he should be out cavorting. But what really made the lords of celebration dislike Nick was that their respective ideals were constantly in conflict. While the others desired sole control over every celebration, Nick only wanted to help others and didn't care about reputation. So that is why poor old Nick was sitting alone in his chair, not invited to the summit, because the lords didn't want him there. After a long while of sitting alone and moping, there was a knock at his door, and Nick said,
Come in, it's open.
The front door was pushed open, and Nick was glad to see his only friend in the world standing there, a snowman named Frosty.
Yo, Nick, what's the deal? Why are you still sitting there stressing? You know you should be down south at that summit representing.
I know, Nick replied, somewhat sheepishly.
But the other lords of celebration want nothing to do with me.
That's some bullshit, Nick. You can't let them disrespect you like that. You need to get your ass to the summit and teach them fools how to act.
I just don't know. It's probably better that I stay. At least I won't get bullied if I remain so far away.
Come on, Nick. Man up. Don't let them push you around.
This whole thing stresses me out. I need to calm down.
Well, if you're trying to relax, I've got just what you need.
And from behind his back, Frosty pulled out a sack of weed. Isn't this against the law? Nick questioned with fear.
You tell me you made the laws. You're the only dude living here.
Oh, what the heck? Let's do this. I need a break from feeling depressed.
That's what I'm talking about, my man. Let's spark up and burn that stress.
Meanwhile, at the summit, the dialogues hit a stall. They argued in circles, unwilling to compromise at all. They bickered back and forth, claiming days from one another. At one point, it was suggested St. Patrick's Day lasts all summer. The feuding went on for days with no one giving in. It seemed nothing short of a miracle could stop the awful din. But back inside Nick's house, there was nothing but smoke and laughs. Frosty and Nick were faded, and they were both having a blast.
Frosty, I gotta say, I've never had so much fun.
This is only a small taste. The good times have just begun.
Speaking of taste, I'm hungry.
Yeah, I got the munchies too.
I'm gonna hit up the pantry and bring us back some food.
Moments later, Nick returned with all the cookies he could carry. He set them down and started eating so fast that it was scary. As Frosty looked on, he was filled with shock and surprise, because every cookie that was eaten caused Nick to grow in size. By the time Nick was done, he was no longer thin and frail. He now had proportions much like that of a whale.
Yo, Nick, are you all right?
Yeah, why do you ask?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's that explosion of mass.
Well, I feel great, and my head is now clear. I realize that you were right. I need to man up and face my fears.
Aw, shit, son. Now that's what I'm saying. Time to crash that summit and show them you ain't playing.
My car's in the shop.
We can take my ride.
You mean that old sleigh, powered by reindeer that fly?
No doubt,
said Frosty as they walked out of Nick's place and then hopped into his sleigh, then soared up towards space. As they journeyed southward, the summit grew more heated. Every proposal that was made was abjectly defeated. The tension kept increasing, and the lords soon stopped talking. Every one of them was thinking that war was the only option. But when it seemed all was lost, the door flew open wide, and the large man dressed all in red walked through the door and went inside.
Who the hell are you?
The rabbit asked angrily.
What's wrong, Cottontail? Don't you recognize me? It's your buddy Nick, the guy you always picked on.
Well, unless you enjoy that treatment, I suggest you turn around, you peon.
The lords all started laughing, thinking they had nothing to fear, until Nick flung the rabbit across the hall by his ears.
Listen up, everyone. The fun and games are through. I'm now running the show, and you'll do exactly what I tell you to.
And why should we listen to you?
Well, Pat, should you refuse, you'll leave me with no options but to leave you broken and bruised.
The room fell deathly silent, and they could see in Nick's eyes that something about him was different. He was no longer the same old guy.
Since all of you are so selfish and can't work towards an agreement, I've come up with my own plan, and I'm here to decree it. We shall all have a single day to call our own each year. No more and no less. Do I make myself clear?
Only one stinking day? How's that even fair?
I hear you're concerned, Pat, but I honestly don't care. Now, listen up. The first holiday goes to Cupid, and then it's Pat, and then it's Easter, once the rabbit's done being stupid. Then next will be Jefferson, a founding father after all. Then comes Halloween, followed by roasted turkey in the fall. Of course, I get the final holiday of the year, so I can clean up your messes and bring the world some cheer. Since these days will be spread out, there will be no competition. Now, does anyone have the balls to disagree with my decision?
The lords were all speechless. They were too shocked to protest. All they could do was sit there and silently acquiesce.
Just one more thing. Pat, since you spoke against me, I will be taking your title and your little elvish posse. You can call me St. Nick, or Santa if you please, and I'll be watching all of you, keeping tabs on all your deeds. If there are no objections, I will be on my way, but if anyone breaks this arrangement, there will be hell to pay.
With that, Nick walked out proudly and got back into his sleigh. Frosty tugged on the reins and they began to fly away.
Yo, Nick, that's how it's done. That's how you go ham. Now those fools have no doubt about who's the f***ing man.
Thank you, my friend. I must admit, I feel amazing. And I owe it all to you and the weed that we were blazing.
So what's next, Nick?
Well, I've got big plans in mind, but I'll need to borrow the sleigh.
Hell yeah, bruh. Anytime.
As they flew off into the night, a new era had begun, where the holidays once again became bastions of fun. And that is how a snowman changed the course of history. So as we celebrate Christmas, be sure to thank Frosty.
Guess who's back? What game for days on tap? And an impressive sack stuffed with swag that's been gift wrapped. So where's my chimney jack? Gotta get my drop on down in the flash. I'll know the stash and I'm gone like I wasn't even there. I don't need to make a scene. I'm already on top of the world if you know what I mean. Santa's the dean, the undisputed dawn on Christmas Eve. So while you all dream, I'm leaving loads under your trees. It's all about me and the things that I do. I'm the difference between a Merry Christmas and one that is blue. You know that it's true. But if you need proof, I got the letters that you wrote to me in your youth, begging me for new toys and the like, telling me about a video game you want or describing a bike. You know Santa gives you what you need. That's why when the ladies need their stocking stuffed, they call me. You better not shout, you better not cry, you better not pout. I'm telling you why. Santa's up in this bitch. I say Santa's up in this bitch. You better not shout, you better not cry, you better not pout. I'm telling you why. Santa's up in this bitch. I say Santa's up in this bitch. You better